I think the Broncos right now, this matchup, their blitz tendencies, a young quarterback. I get the big plays and the potential big plays, but Vance has always struck me as a guy, going back to, what I've learned from him, listening to him and talking to him when he was the defense coordinator of the Arizona Cardinals, is he's bringing pressure. Vance believes in pressure. That's who he is as a coordinator. That's who the Denver Broncos are. Like I mentioned, the number one blitz pressure team in football. I just don't see them changing because, Spencer Rattler scares us without his two top wide receivers. I don't think that's going to change.
Let's get to the other side of the ball. Now, I'm going to be maybe guilty of a huge oversimplification, but here it is. After listening to both of you this week, doing an awesome job breaking down the film, and especially with what we saw from what was originally thought to be garbage time late in that Chargers game and how it wasn't garbage time, the way that the Chargers were playing, is it as simple as this, Stink, that when we sit down to watch the game tonight, can we get an idea of if Sean Payton truly saw what happened at the end of the game and is deciding to run with it by just the number of guys they send out into the pattern? If we look up and we come see the Broncos at the line of scrimmage and they have 3 guys going out, does that tell us that he really didn't pay or take a lot of stock into what they did at the end of the game last week? And conversely, if we see the Broncos come to the line of scrimmage, then they have 4 or 5 guys going out into the pattern, does it prove that, hey, Sean did see that Bo now is capable maybe of having more put on his plate?
I think that's an oversimplification based upon who you're playing against, and the way you're going to game plan this thing. I think there is a weak link that you've got to worry about if you're the Broncos, and that's Alex Forsythe, the center. You look at, since he came in week 5, he came into the fourth quarter when Wattenberg got hurt, right?
Yep.
That he's given up 9 pressures.
Oof.
9 pressures in essentially one game.
9 times.
9 times.
9
That's right.
times.
9 times.
That's
and so
not righteous.
No, it's not righteous. You look what the Chargers did in the way they singled up Forsythe in that game to create one-on-one opportunities for their nose guard. Like, nose guards are not supposed to be able to rush the passer, right? That's not the way it's supposed to work. And they singled him up, and he gave up a ton of pressures in that game. So you could sit there and say, we're going to, we believe in Bo Nix, so we're going to get 5 guys out in the pattern all the time. Well, it doesn't necessarily mean that you believe in Bo Nix, like keeping guys in to help double team there and then protect the edge. That doesn't mean so much that you don't believe in Bo Nix. It means more that you don't believe in the guys up front. And so that's something you have to consider as well, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you want to protect Bo still. And so I don't think you're going to go into this game and say, okay, hey, we're going to be just protecting with 5 all game long, right? I don't think that's the right approach. I think there's a balance. There's a fine line. And in certain situations, you're going to try to protect it up and take your shots. In other situations, you ought to be more aggressive. And I think you have to adapt and be ready to adjust depending on what the defense is showing you, what they're doing against you. Are they blitzing a lot? Okay, well then let's be a little bit more conservative. Are they being conservative? Okay, well let's be a little bit more aggressive. And I think that's the approach that you have to take with a young quarterback.
Yeah, but I just feel like we are at a point now where let's not lose sight of what the ultimate goal of this season is. And I know with the 3-game winning streak and putting themselves back into the playoff conversation, perhaps you look at how you're coaching these games and game planning from Sean's vantage point, and maybe you're thinking a little bit more conservatively, right? But ultimately, what is the goal of this season? Mark, it's to find out if Bo Nix can be the guy. And if you think he can be the guy, let's speed up as much as possible without doing something really crazy and harmful. Let's try to stack more on this guy's plate. And if the film clearly showed that in a desperate situation, he responded well to that, then why in the world would you not want to change your philosophy going into this game starting tonight?
Yeah, well, because you always have to worry about It's not just about Bo Nix, but it's about protecting Bo Nix. It's about protecting other players and all those different things. And like, I would ask Stoke a question because I came across this statistic here, and it just interests me. The Broncos, from a motion perspective, like when they use motion and shifts and all that, they've only motioned on 33% of their plays offensively this season, which is the lowest rate since the 2019 Jaguars. They're the only team in the league that is less than 45% of using motion on plays. And so I would push that back to Stoke. Like, why is that the case? Do they not have players that can handle it, Stoke? Is that an offensive line deal? We saw them using some motions and getting beat and not understanding who to block in some situations a couple games ago. Like, where are you? And you played an offense that didn't motion a lot. So
Right.
I would just ask you, what does that mean to you, Stoke?
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. I think when it comes to when you motion, all of a sudden the defense adjusts, right? And now maybe it was they're blitzing from the left, now they're blitzing from the right. Just things like that happen. The left safety's down, now the right safety's down. So it puts more on the offensive line's plate, but also your quarterback's plate. And also, on top of all that, we've seen some issues in some situations where the play call the play call is long. Bo's getting out of the huddle with 5, 6, 7 seconds left on the clock. You don't have time to motion. That's just one more thing to think about if you're the quarterback. So I think early on, if you're Sean Payton and the way that you're viewing things, you want to keep it as simple as possible when it comes to motion, shifts, all these different things, personnel groupings. Maybe you can do too much there, and that's just another thing that Bo has to think about. So take that away from him and not let him have to worry about that. I think maybe that's why we don't see a lot of that also.
So what is it, a little bit of motion just to kind of get the defense to give you a tell as to what they're doing, man, zone, that type of thing, but then let the quarterback be able to take a picture, right?
Yeah.
Without a lot of moving parts, we'll make a movement here, a movement there, let the defense kind of declare itself, and then let the quarterback take a good
Time and
static
place.
look at it.
Time and place for motions and shifts, and sometimes it can be too much, and it looks great on the chalkboard, but it's really just we're overdoing it when we're trying to just, hey, Bo, go out there and play,
right,
and not think as much, and so we can really evaluate you. And then as he gets more comfortable, maybe you'll start seeing some more of those things. And it's not just, motions are good and shifts are good because they're coverage indicators, but they also help receivers get off the line of scrimmage if you're seeing press coverage.
Yes.
So there's a lot of benefits there, but sometimes you can try to do too much as an offense, especially with a young quarterback, and I think they don't want that to happen with Bo.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because motion and shifts are great right up until the point that's like disguising coverage. It's great right up until the point it's not and you get beat, right?
Right, exactly.
So it is great, and one of the things that I saw early in the season with all the motions, and Stoke mentioned this, you motion, you change the strength of the formation one side or the next, or you motion guys from outside to in, and all of a sudden it introduces a different shift by the defense, and sometimes it introduces an extra player in the box, right? And then your number counts get screwed up, and guys can't adjust the number count and who they're supposed to block, and then you miss guys at the second level blocking. So that's one thing. The other thing is Stoke mentioned, getting off a press. When you put a guy in motion, now all of a sudden I can't press that guy, so I'm going to get him off the ball or out of his break and off of press coverage. The other thing you can use it for is if you motion from one side to the other, and you've got for instance, you've got a tighter formation, you can get leverage with the receiver where you snap the ball instantly. He's already on the outside of the cornerback who's got to pick him up in coverage, or the linebacker that's got to pick him up in coverage. So you can create a leverage situation opportunity for your guy to have better leverage in a route. So there's a lot of stuff that goes in and why we use motion. But again, if the motion screws you up more than it benefits you because you're young and maybe you're not as bright as you'd like to be up front, then you got to cut that stuff back. And I think that's one of the small adjustments that Sean has made because of those situations.
Yeah, you're spot on. And, you don't just go straight to calculus, right? I mean, there's a process here we got to remember. This guy's a young quarterback, and we want to develop him the right way.
Some of us never go to calculus at all, Stoke.
That is very
Some of us
true.
stay in Algebra 1.
We never made it, Mark.
Some of us stayed in Algebra 1 for 3 straight years.
I hear you. But I think that's the right approach.
Math.
Oh, that's y'all's
That's
math.
our
dude.
own
That's,
little-
that
Yeah, math's
scared me.
hard.
That's our own little
math is
in-show
hard.
joke that.
Okay. So I think that's the approach here with Bo. We got to remember he's going into his 7th start in the NFL. We don't want to overdo it and give him too much. Eventually, we'll work our way towards that.